Many of you have probably never even seen a bike like this. If I had to guess, I would say mid to early 90s. No suspension at all, so that would be different for most of you to ride on. But don't laugh. A well-functioning piece of equipment like this is nothing to scoff at. It's ergonomically rather well designed, and usually it's mostly the rider and not the equipment. Let's say 10% equipment, 90% rider. You're not likely to see another one like this either. Look at the one-piece bar design. Well, that's really pleasant to use, but once they bend, nothing's replaceable. You have to throw it away. What's even worse is this design here. You have a shifter and brakes all integrated into one thing. So if you break one, this bike is done for. And then of course we have these old-fashioned brakes, which are not as bad as you may think if you've never had them before on a bike. Once you get used to tuning them, you can come to a screeching halt, and they're pretty reliable. But the bike is not the subject of our attention here. It's these things. I get every once in a while somebody requests a better look at them, so I'll tell you a little bit about them, how I made them, things that I like and things that I don't. First of all, I don't love them equally. I could do without this one. This is just when you want to do work back here, but if you're only going to build one, the front one's a must-have. It's really versatile. You can use it for a lot of stuff. So let's pretend we don't even have the back one. You can use this one for parking your bike. It's really, did I already say versatile? I love this one. So it has an adjustment here. This, and before I forget to say, this black stuff here is just old bike inner tube. And the rubber against rubber gives it a nice grip. And even if the tires are wet, it still grabs nice. Finding the sweet spot is a little tricky, but once you have it, you can have this in and out of this thing with zero frustration. There's also an adjustment down there, but I don't even recommend that you do it. I never use it. This one is good enough. How it works, it's just threaded rod, nut on the end that's permanent. This is just a nut knob with a piece of hose over it. A nut knob is simply a little nut pressed inside of a big nut with a vise. And then I covered it with a piece of hose. This hose is garden hose, it's water hose. You can see where the reinforcing fiber was, and I peeled all of that out and separated the two layers, and it makes great bar end grip. Good bar end grip is tough to find. I use this stuff whenever it's possible. And then we have a spacer so that it can spread apart. Now this distance here will work for most standard mountain bikes, and it will squeeze all the way down for like an in-between street trail bike. A road bike with a really skinny tire, it probably won't do that. You would probably have to build a different dedicated one for it. And obviously this won't work with those fat bikes, but why would you want one of those anyways? Unless you live on sand dunes. I made it modular, you know, so you can store it away, but I don't really know why I did that. It's totally not necessary. That's probably the first time I've ever taken it apart. And the design it's really inelegant, but that's because I fumbled through just adding piece after piece over the course of the last 10 years to get it so that it's user friendly. So there's vestigial parts that have been cut away from old versions of, you know, how it was before. You definitely want to put the Ranger bands out of old tube here on this place and over here, just because it keeps it from spinning too easily, and once you put a little bit of weight on it, it really grabs the ground. If it slides, it gets annoying. In terms of compatibility, I have at least 10 mountain bikes, and they're all medium, large, or extra large frames, so this works with just about anything. And the distance between is about 2 3/8 here, where it matters, 2.5-ish maybe, and it opens up another inch at the top. So flexibility is nice. You don't want to build it too rigid. Don't overdo it. It's about 19 inches that way, about 21 inches tall, and about 23 inches wide. As far as its design goes, I love this thing. It performs wonderfully, but if you can simplify the design, just make it easier to build, go ahead, please do. I wish it were simpler to construct, but as far as its usefulness goes, it's great, and it's rugged. It's taken some abuse over the years. Okay, on to the other one. This one is not for use by itself because it's just not stable enough. So you have to use the front one with it. Depending on the model of the bike, these can be different. So this rotates to accommodate just about any bike. The only thing that you really have to worry about when you grab a bike this way is if you look on the other side, you can see the cable right here for the rear derailleur. You have to watch that it doesn't get pinched, because the whole purpose of using this thing is to be able to work on the back end of the bike. And if, like a rear derailleur. So if you're pinching the cable, it kind of defeats the purpose. Note that these have table saw grooves in them. We'll take it up and give you a better look. See how it has these grooves for traction? I put lines in it, and they're also there. And it makes it not so easy for it to kick out. It grabs and holds. Wow, what's the story here? I had no idea that it was this complicated. Take a look at this. I really went through some trouble. Okay, so that's threaded. And then there's a bolt that it goes into. So all of this is free to rotate. I don't really know what this is for. It's probably just a spacer block to get the size correct. But then this is inner tube. And then these Ranger bands hold it in place. And that way it doesn't scratch your bike frame. That's a pretty complicated thing. I hope you can simplify it. But it works wonderfully. I guess it doesn't matter how goofy looking a bridge is as long as it gets us across the water, right? This is a hinge, a door hinge that's been cut in half. I think I remember that. This early version, I just wanted to prop it up, but I ended up using a hinge. Down at the bottom, it's not too complicated. That cut can just be made with a table saw. If it were upside down, then the circularity of the saw blade will make it deeper on that spot, and it automatically gives you an angle. This is just a 2040 bolt. And then again with these struts, or whatever you want to call them, for stability, there's Ranger bands on them in 2 or 3 layers, and it makes a nice rubber foot that has lasted, half of a decade at least. Once you have the comfortable settings to your specific bike, it will preserve them, because the hinge is bent so it holds that position. And now you can slide this whole thing through that spot in the frame, and then fold it up. And if you do it 5 or 6 times, you'll find a comfortable way to do it easily. So there you have it. Your very own DIY exercise bike. Really quick, let's run through dimensions. 25 1/4, 10 1/2, 18 1/2, 8 1/8. That's the wood. Any further questions, please ask. The only thing that you really can't easily adjust with a setup like this is the front brakes. You'll have to turn the bike upside down and spin the wheel to get a good adjustment on those. Also for truing the front wheel. Okay, hope this was useful to you. That's enough for now. I can't really think of anything else that's relevant, so see you on the next subject, whatever that may be. Thanks.